The overhead mics do work, but I thought with such a big room it'd be good to have some microphones just so that people, because that doesn't work for people in the back.
I know, it's like, I wait so long to leave, I should have known. I would have known. She delegated
Alright, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I guess we have a few more people joining us. We've got a big crowd today. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We'll go ahead and get started and welcome everyone to the Office 365 kickoff that we have today. Hope everyone's excited about it. Alright, I can tell you're My name is Matt Schumacher. I'm the Director of Technology here, and for the next probably won't be an hour unless you guys have a lot of questions, which is great. But we're going to talk about our rollout of Office 365 that will be coming up this summer. And we'll talk about some details about what to expect as far as the rollout and when. We'll also talk about your role as super users and what we would like to have you help us with as far as this project goes. And all of you have been either volunteered yourself or were volunteered to help on this project with us. We really thank you for your participation and for your help with this. We know that having some super users like all of you that will be able to have some extra training and some extra knowledge of the system is really going to help us be successful overall. So with that, the first thing I want to do is ask Mark Wayne to come forward here and say a few words about here's our agenda first of all. We're going to have a little bit of an overview, talk about those expectations, and then talk about training a little bit. And so I'll have Mark just say a few words to welcome you guys here as well.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Wayne. I'm the Chief Information Officer, and Kelly Fisk had wanted to be here. She wasn't able to make it today, but both of us wanted to take just a couple minutes to thank you all for participating with it. Office 365 is going to be really important to the organization. I think it's a huge opportunity for us to really help everybody work together a little closer. That collaboration that it's going to provide us is going to be real beneficial. How many of you were involved or around when we went live with Epic in 2010? So there's a fair amount of you. You know, when we did that, that was another enterprise-wide system that we rolled out that really impacted the majority of the staff in the organization. And looking back on it, I think that we probably didn't have enough super users. And I think everybody that went through that experience would probably say that. It's nice to see this room full of people because there's great value in having people that take a little extra time in learning about the product to kind of be that front line of defense as we roll this out and you start to have your coworkers that have questions on it, that they have somebody that they can go to help them out with those questions. I know at the time, whenever you roll something out new, there's a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress with everybody that's doing that. And if we can give you a little jump start in terms of education on that, and then you can kind of use that to leverage for those folks that are a little bit anxious about how they do something within the product, I think it's going to make the whole project go that much smoother for us. So thank you for volunteering to do this. We appreciate that you're all here today. And I hope you've got lots of questions, and we'll get through this together. I know from the executive team's perspective, they are also really excited to get this rolled out because we see that value of being able to work together on projects, and Office 365 is going to allow us to do that. So again, thank you for being here today.
All right, thanks, Mark. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit now about what Office 365 is. How many people have used Office 365 before in the previous, quite a few of you? How many people have at least heard of Office 365? Probably almost most of you as well. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about what Office 365 is and how we might want to use it, and then we'll get into kind of how we're going to be rolling it out here at LGU. Office 365, as you can see in this nice diagram here, is got a lot of cool icons with it. Office 365 is a online cloud-based collaboration tool. So it's basically taking all of the Office tools, Microsoft Office tools you may have used already, some that we haven't used before here at LGU, and it's hosting them in the cloud. I'm sure everyone has probably heard that term before, cloud. And what it means is kind of different to different people, but in this case, what that really means is that we're using software that is located on somebody else's stuff, on somebody else's server and computer room and all that sort of thing. So all of the resources, all of the servers and the storage systems, all those things that it takes to run a system like this, an email system or file storage system, they're not located here in our data center, but they're located somewhere else in Microsoft's data center. That's basically what cloud means. But it allows us a lot of opportunities because Microsoft has a lot of resources to host all these applications, and they can keep them a lot more up to date than we would be able to on our own. And it's also a platform that enables a lot of, because of how it's located in the cloud, it enables us to do a lot of collaboration within our organization and even within two other organizations. So those are some of the strong points of it. Beyond that, it's the basic Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint that we all know. We'll also be using Outlook, which is the Microsoft email platform instead of GroupWise. And that's kind of going to be the focus of our first phase that you'll see here in a minute. There are also file sharing tools called OneDrive, which for anyone who's used either Dropbox or Box, it's basically the same thing. It's just that it's integrated with Microsoft's products. So those are some of the main components. In future phases of the rollout, we'll also have more collaboration tools available to us, and we'll touch on that just briefly here at the end. So that's kind of in a nutshell what Office 365 is all about. So phase 1 for our rollout is going to be migrating GroupWise to Outlook. And this is going to be a big step. It's probably the one that's going to be most difficult for us just because we're all so reliant on email every day in our calendars. So this is going to be the first big step. This is scheduled. We'll go into some more details on the schedule, but this will be July 10th that we'll make the final cutover. And that has to happen for everyone all at once as far as the email delivery. So you'll be using GroupWise up until the 9th, and starting on the 10th, we'll be using Outlook for email. And we'll talk a little bit more about some details on that, but this is part of our first phase. And the other piece has to do with OneDrive, and really what this is, you can think of eventually our K drives will be replaced by OneDrive. Now, on July 10th, nothing necessarily will change. Your K drives aren't going to go away, but you know, down the road a little bit, we'll send some more communication about that. But OneDrive can be used, and it will be available to you right away with Outlook for you to start storing files in the cloud. And there will be a little bit of training as part of the training sessions that we'll talk about that'll tell you how you can use that with Outlook. And then in the future, we'll tell you more about how you can move files to OneDrive and get rid of those K drives, and it'll be a lot more, your files will be a lot more accessible to you and secure. So on day one, nothing is going to happen with your K drive, but that will be coming. We have it as phase 1, but it's sort of a second part of phase 1, so to speak. So that's kind of the first phase of that. Let me talk a little bit now about Outlook, which is the tool that's replacing GroupWise. And if anyone has any questions, just go ahead and let me know now. Otherwise, we'll have time for questions at the end, too. That might be easier, but if there's something that doesn't make sense, just stop me and let me know. Outlook 2016, that's the latest version of Microsoft's email program, which is Outlook. That's what we'll be using. This is a messaging and collaboration tool, similar to GroupWise, of course. You'll have your email, your calendar, your contact management, address books, things like that. There is a web version that will be accessible from anywhere that you have internet access, just similar to GroupWise web access, but I think you'll find that the Outlook version of web is a lot more functional than the GroupWise version is. And of course, it is going to be fully integrated with all the other Office applications that you'll be using, including the cloud applications like OneDrive. And so you'll be able to access all of your OneDrive files from your Outlook and vice versa. And you'll see a lot more about that when you go through the training. But that's really what Outlook is, and that's going to be the tool that will basically replace your GroupWise going forward. And we'll talk a little bit more about the timing of when you'll get that here in a few minutes. But it will do everything GroupWise does and more, I think you'll find, for the most part. There might be a few things that, especially some of our power users, that might be a little different in Outlook than it was in GroupWise. And our training will try to call out a lot of those things, but we'll also need you guys as super users to help us find those and communicate them to the rest of the organization as well. And I'll have a little bit more about that here in a second. But that's basically what Outlook is about. And then OneDrive, a little more information on that. I mentioned it's very similar to Google Drive or Dropbox or Box, and that's really what it is. It's an online way to share files. It's secure. You can update your files and access them anywhere. And you can. And another cool feature of Office 365 in general is the ability for people to share files with each other and also to work on files even at the same time. And so our steering committee has utilized this quite a bit already, even in preparing things like this presentation, where we can both be looking at the PowerPoint at the same time and even changing it at the same time if you access them through the cloud. And so there's going to be a lot of cool features like that are enabled for us to use that are often kind of a stumbling block when we're trying to collaborate with people today. So a lot of these features will be available to us, and over time, I think we'll learn more about them and how we can use them to make us more efficient. That's the basics of OneDrive. It's just an online file sharing portal. We have a lot of storage available to us out there. If anyone fills it up, I'll be impressed. I don't even know exactly what the number is, but it's basically, there is a limit now, but we've been told that if we hit the limit and we need more, we'll get more. So, I mean, there's doesn't mean you should keep everything forever, but I guess you won't be able to find it, but that won't be a limitation for us. So there are tools also that we'll be rolling out for those of you that are desktop users. So if you have your own computer that you're using every day, which is probably most of you, to synchronize files to your desktop to make it available to other things that don't understand the cloud. But you'll get some of that information during the training as well. And now the question I'm sure you're all asking yourselves is, what do we mean by a super user? I was going to see if Scott would dress up as Superman today, but so a super user, what we really want to communicate about the super user role, and Mark kind of touched on the Epic rollout and how we utilize super users there. But what we'd ask of all of you is we're going to have some more formalized training available for all of you. We'd like you to attend that training. It will be about 90 minutes to an hour in length. And the dates are on the handouts that you have, and it'll be coming up here on the slide. This is going to be focused mostly on this first phase, so it's mostly on Outlook and the things you need to know for us moving from GroupWise to Outlook. So really those things we're going to need to know on July 10th to be successful. And we'll also be giving all of you access to the tools ahead of time. I have some information later, I believe, about how you can start accessing those tools online today. And then prior to or around the time of the training, we'll be giving you access to install the software on your computers as well. And we'll give you information on how you can do that. And we want you to take advantage of that. We know that there might still be some things changing when you access it because we're tweaking some policies and getting ready to go live. So we're going to ask for your patience with that if those things come up. But we want to hear about things that you maybe encounter as you're using it that might be important for everyone to know when we roll this out to the wider audience. So that's one part of it. Another part is just to be a resource for your department. So when we go live, we know it'll be more efficient if the user or end user population has a resource close to them that they maybe can ask questions about how to do something. And if it's 365 or how do I set up an appointment? How do I do a busy search? There's a new feature in Excel that they're not sure about, whatever it may be. We'd like you guys to be the first line of defense for some of those questions, at least initially, for the first 3 weeks. And we will also have a command center set up to help address those questions as well. And of course, our IT service center will be available to support that as well. But that's another part of that super user role. I think I have another slide that kind of goes into some of that I just said. Yeah, so attending the super user training sessions. Positive attitude, excitement about the change. I think most of you are probably in that category, although not all of us may be feeling positive about this change because it is a change and it can affect people's outlook. No pun intended for the change. So we do think overall it's going to be a very beneficial thing for us. But as with any change, we anticipate there'll be a few bumps in the road as we're rolling things out. So we would like to have you guys help us be the good ambassadors for this project and telling everyone, that it's going to be okay. We're going to, even though it might be kind of nerve-wracking for people to see something that they use so often changing like this, that we're confident that we're going to be in a better place in the long run. So we ask for your help with that. As I said, answering questions, and then helping to report critical issues to up to our command center will be another thing when we're going live. So, any questions on that? I don't know, a big question that we had going into this. That makes sense? Good. All right, so talk about timelines real quick. Phase 1 is going to start July 10th, and prior to July 10th, we will be synchronizing your old emails out of your GroupWise mailbox into the new Outlook mailbox. So that process is actually happening starting on this Friday, the 19th. So one thing to remember is that's a one-way synchronization. So we're starting to copy old messages from GroupWise into your new Outlook mailbox. The reason that's important is just to understand that if you start deleting things out of your GroupWise mailbox, for example, or moving them to a folder, especially those old messages for the next month or two, when when you go into Outlook, they might still be there. It look like they didn't delete because, you know, it doesn't completely synchronize those. But we need to start that process early to make sure we have time to get all those messages into there. So the worst case scenario is you might have deleted a message and then it's showing up in Outlook again and you're just going to delete it again. But we're going to do this and work backwards. So the first pass, I think we're going up to the end of 2016. Does that sound right, guys? So we're going to start getting all those old messages the first few weeks of our synchronization starting on Friday. We'll be bringing all those messages in your mailbox up to December 31st of last year. And then we'll make subsequent passes as we get closer to July 10th. That will maybe go up to within a few months of July 10th and then a few weeks. And then the final pass will happen as we're going live and getting all those new messages into your Outlook mailbox. And then on July 10th, the main thing is all the new messages, anyone sends a message to Altru.org, will start being delivered directly into Outlook and not into GroupWise. So their GroupWise mailbox will still be there on July 10th. It's just that no new messages will be coming into it anymore. So we'll want people to start using Outlook. The other thing is we want to leave that mailbox around for a little while just in case, you know, something doesn't look right, you think you missed something, or something got missed in the conversion. We'll still be able to go back and check it out. And also because it doesn't specifically say it here on this slide, but I think I mentioned it before, we cannot synchronize the calendars. So your calendars will need to be manually re-inputted into Outlook. And that's kind of an unfortunate extra amount of work for us, but everyone we've talked to that's done this migration from GroupWise has said it's absolutely the way to go because the synchronization of a copy of those calendars doesn't translate well from GroupWise to Outlook. And if we did it, there would be a lot of gaps, and we wouldn't really be able to trust that information in there. And so it's much better to do it this way. As we get closer, we'll provide more. We'll be covering this in our training to some extent, and you'll get more information. A lot of the people in this room are probably a lot of people that sent out a lot of the appointments in this organization are here as well. And so, you know, there are ways that we can help you go and look in your sent folder if you don't know already and see which appointments you sent out so that they can be resent in the new system. And you will be able to, at least for everyone in this group, we'll be able to start doing that even before the 10th. So after your training, you'll be able to go in and start setting up more those appointments so that they're there when we cut over. And then we'll also have GroupWise available for you to double check things for a while too until you're comfortable with making sure we got everything in there. The one gap that we'll need to be aware of with that is appointments that come from outside the organization because we'll need to notify those people to ask them to resend or, you know, add them manually or whatever. So that's the one area that could be a little bit more tricky. But we'll be covering this topic more with you. We'll be covering it in training and have more communication with that too as we get closer. But that's one thing to remember. And the other thing is we'll be rolling out, so for those of you that have GroupWise installed on your desktop today, we'll be installing the new version of Office 365 also on your desktop. For those people that don't have a local install of GroupWise, they'll be able to use, we'll push out an icon so they can use the online version of Outlook, just like they do GroupWise today. In the future, we'll be able to roll out the full client on more desktops than we do with GroupWise because we don't have as many license restrictions, but for the initial day, we're going to try to keep it simple so that if you have the full version of GroupWise, you'll have the full version of Outlook. And then if you use web, you'll use web. So that's kind of how we're planning to attack it for that first day anyway, to try to keep it a little simpler to communicate. All right, let's see what else we got here. So a few more dates. We did previously communicate with our leaders to ask people to go ahead if you want to take some time to clean out your inbox prior to this or old messages. Do that before the 19th because that's when we're going to start that synchronization that I mentioned. And it's always a good time to clean up files on your K drive, even though it's not a deadline like this. I think we just realize it's always, you know. And when we say clean up, we're not like looking for a certain size or any of drive or anything like that. It's just kind of more that 5S mentality. You know, if there's old files that are out there that you don't need anymore, clean them up because they just kind of make it harder to find the good stuff. So that's the idea there. We have the Superuser Kickoff today. And we'll give you some information about the access to the online versions of Office 365. For those of you that are in the room, there's a handout about the training sessions coming up at the beginning of June 7th and We will have some open learning labs available in a few weeks right before the upgrade. This will be open to anyone who's interested, including the super users, but more targeted at those who aren't going through the formal training. And we'll have the applications installed so people who aren't in the super user group will be able to go in ahead of time, and if they want to get some increased comfort level with tools prior to the 10th, they'll have some opportunities to go and sit in the training rooms and do that. And we'll have staff available to help them do any questions or anything like that. So that's what the learning labs are about. And then the phase 1 go live is July 10th, like I mentioned. All right, let's see what else we got. So you can access the Office 365 applications by going to login at microsoftonline.com if you haven't already. You should be able to log in with your regular Active Directory username and password. This is the same one that you use to log into your computer or into Epic today. And that's what will be your new email password, in Office 365. So if you had a different password for GroupWise, that's not going to come with. That's going to, once we're done with GroupWise, that won't. It'll be the same password that you use for your other tools will be what you use for Office 365. And like I said, the desktop installs of these programs will be coming later. We'll send out more information, but we will roll that out to this group first, and then the larger group closer to go live. Any questions on that? Part of it? I think that might be all I have. Anyone need to see this anymore? I think it's pretty straightforward. Log in at microsoftonline.com. If you Google Office 365 login, you'll probably find it that way too.
And I'll be sending the PowerPoint and the handouts out to people that are video will get those out.
And just a point on the username and password, you do need to put, it's not just your username, it's username at altru.org. So it's your email address, basically. I just realized that. We should have that in there differently. But the password is the same as what you use here. Once you get logged in, there'll be a bunch of tiles with icons for the different applications. So you can go into Outlook Online, for example, and there won't be much in there, but you can start playing around and seeing things in there. Feel free to do that. You can access you can go in PowerPoint and create a file or the online versions of those programs, and just to start to get familiar with it. So I'd encourage everyone to do that. We have let our IT Service Center know that this is happening, so if you have questions, you can contact them, or even better, we have an email group that is available today called Office 365 Help at altru.org that you can, any kind of how do I do this, is this right kind of thing. We'll be watching that email group and trying to respond to those questions as they come up. So. And also on AltruLink, Deanne has put together a lot of information out there under the Office 365 link. I think there's a banner on that main page too, right? Yeah.
It's under Employee Toolbox on the
Okay.
right-hand side.
Under Employee Toolbox. And there's a lot of great resources there. I think we have some links to some videos, kind of how-to things, right?
Yep, there will be soon.
Yep. So we'll be using that as kind of a main communication channel for you guys and for the whole organization. The nice thing about Office 365 is that it's not something just Altru is doing. It's becoming very common in healthcare and in all industries. So a lot of organizations are doing this. So there's a lot of good resources out there to help us and to help you learn how to do things. So we'll eventually have some nice videos that kind of walk you through some of the basic tasks. Same things you'll get in training, but how to create an appointment and kind of some of the basic things. Just quick little videos that kind of show you how to do that. Plus, we'll have some frequently asked questions and some tip sheets and things that will be available through there as well. So that's a good resource to keep in mind. And, the nice thing is going forward, once we get into subsequent rollouts of Office 365, we expect we'll be able to use some of the tools within Office 365 to even better communicate things like this. But since we're not quite there yet, we're going to use some of these methods here to help us try to keep on top of things. So feel free to send out those emails. And guys, Heather, does that email list, is it just for, just come to the IT folks to answer questions? I wonder if we should put together distribution list for all the super users too, to just communicate with each other maybe. We'll look into that and see, just so then we could ask each other questions maybe too. We'll look into that, but. And of course, you can be each other's resources. Many of you raised your hand when you had used Office 365 before. And so a lot of knowledge in this room, probably even more so than the IT side on some of these how do I do this questions within Office 365. So make sure that'll be good to leverage each other as well for those things. So what questions do you guys have?
Matt.
Yes.
Go ahead. Either way. Cleaning up the email. Do I remember right that what you put back in your cabinet is okay, or you got to really?
Yep. If you move things to a cabinet folder, those will get moved over.
Calendars don't move over, but how about address lists?
Personal address books will get moved over. Yep. Make sure I heard that. The question was, can you start putting your calendar items in? Not quite yet. Wait until at least Friday, because we, right now, with the synchronization that's happening on Friday, sometime this week we're going to be wiping out what's in your mailbox right now, and then in order to have a clean synchronization. So starting on Friday, you're fine to go in there, but just wait until then, because otherwise we'll lose it and you'll have to do it again. So yes, I can send out another communication this week just to verify that. But at that point, yes, you'd be able to go in and start setting up appointments.
As far as past appointments, like we have a lot of in our notes section of the appointments, contact information and information about past events that we go back and reference for finding future ones. How long will that data be available from past years, or how can we get that information?
So the question had to do with past appointments and being able to access that data since it's not coming over. We haven't necessarily set a date where GroupWise is going to be completely gone yet, so it'll be around for a while. I don't know.
A while, like a few weeks or months or a year or?
I would say at least months, if not a year. I mean, it's basically, if there's a need for it, we'll keep it around. We don't, the only caution I have is that we're going to be dropping support on it, so if something major happened to it and we wouldn't be able to use our vendor to fix it eventually. So that just means we can't keep it around indefinitely. But I would think we'd keep it about a year at least, is kind of what I had thought. But you know, we haven't set a date yet, and that's how you would be able to go back and reference that and then bring it forward, whatever makes sense, whatever method makes sense into the new platform.
And then do we have on the calendar like proxy access like we currently do now, so we can get on and visualize other people's calendars?
Yep, and that will be covered, I believe, in the training. That does not convert over, so that will need to be set up again. So that's another one that you'll need to think about who needs access to your mailbox and how to grant that back. That is one of the conversion pieces that I know I think we can make sure it gets covered, and I'm pretty sure it's in there already in our training. If not, we'll make sure it's in there. But yes, it definitely has that feature. It's one of those things that doesn't convert. Is that right, guys? Yeah, doesn't convert over. Go ahead.
If you have groups set up, will they transfer? Like say you have like a committee or whatever, now you have to have a title. You put that title in all the individuals that come up. Will that transfer? You have to create all those groups again.
I'm looking to our folks in the back. So that would be a group in your personal address book, a personal distribution list.
Yeah, when you set up appointments.
That, I think.
Because I mean, some of the groups I have like have 25, 30.
That would be an entry in your personal address book, right, guys? And that's coming over, right? I think, yeah. We'll double check on it, but I'm pretty sure that's now the system. There's two different types of groups. There's the one that you create yourself, and I believe those are in your address book. We can test that once we get into this, and we can we'll take a note and just double check on it. But that has come across the address book. Now, it might not be there until the day of the cutover we'll have to double check on the timing on that, but we did do some testing on that just a few weeks ago to make sure that personal address books would come over, and they did. Now, there were some of the things like, I think, some notes or something in there. Is that what it was, guys, that didn't come over, but the lists did come over. The system has the system groups, so those are the ones that everyone sees. Those might need to be recreated, but those are something that we'd be looking at, making sure we have a list of them, so we'll bring those over. But the ones that you created yourselves, those should come over. That's something we'll double check on.
So does the K drive moving to OneDrive eliminate the need for L drive?
Well, I think eventually we would not need L drives. I'm not sure it's necessarily the same. It might be implemented a little bit differently. There's some other tools that we have as part of Office 365 that are probably going to, rather than it being a OneDrive. OneDrive is really designed for a person's email storage, but there are other parts of Office 365 that are designed for groups or departments. That's going to be a later phase, but eventually I believe we would like to get rid of the K drive, L drive, and the O drive and have it all stored in the cloud. But you know, we want to step through it a little bit before we get to that point, get everyone comfortable with it. Does that answer your question?
Sure.
You want to know when?
No, I'm okay. Not really.
All right, go ahead.
The instant messaging feature going to be used?
The question is about the instant messaging. So there's a product called Skype for Business, which is a collaboration tool. You can use it for instant messaging. It can be used for audio conferencing. It can be used for video conferencing and a lot of things like that. Eventually, yes, but and it might be getting installed as part of the suite of applications, but we're not really going to be communicating a lot about it until a little later phase. It's really just a matter of trying to control all the amount of change that's going on at once. If people they're really dying to use it and you're comfortable with it, you know, certainly it's going to be available, but we do think that it will be our primary tool for collaboration going forward in the future for us, and that can replace our GoToMeeting and you know, WebEx and stuff and even the phone conferencing that we do, as well as some of the video that we're doing here, can all be done with Skype. But we just we want to keep this first phase really focused on getting that email part done, because that's going to be a lot to manage as an organization. Skype will be able to do some more work on it after we go live and start deciding when we want to start more broadly making it available. But you guys will kind of be our, you know, a group that will be able to help us determine how we want to do that too. We kind of will look to you guys to help us figure out what tools we should go with next. And there's a lot of things in Office 365, and one of the challenges is just trying to understand how it all works and what we can use it for and what it makes sense to use it for, and not to overwhelm everyone at the same time. So eventually, yes. GroupWise Messenger, for those of you that need it, we will probably be talking to you about getting you on Skype earlier, so that, because we do GroupWise messaging will need to go away, I think, by the end of July, because of our licensing on that. It doesn't affect a ton of people, but there's a few departments that have been using it that we've already started talking to them a little bit. On the other hand, yep, go ahead. OneNote, yes. Publisher, I don't know. Is Publisher in? I haven't heard of that one in a long time.
Might be available.
Yeah.
It's not part of the
We'll look into that one, but OneNote will be available for everyone. What?
Microsoft Access?
Microsoft Access is part of the suite. It's not an application that's available online, but once we do the full install, it is part of that. Any other question?
Matt, when we worked at my previous company, one of the issues that a lot of the admins had was double booking meeting rooms, so we converted Promoted Notes over to Office 365. People were double booking rooms because they didn't realize that they had been booked previously with the other system. is there going to be some kind of standard that the admins will follow to say if your room was booked in this room in GroupWise, it'll go to this room in Office 365? Otherwise, you're going to run into a lot of people. I mean, there was a lot of frustration with people.
Yeah, so the question was, for those that didn't hear, it had to do with how we transfer kind of the responsibilities for meeting rooms over to the new system to make sure that we get, you know, if you had a meeting booked in the meeting room for this whole year, for example, that gets retained in the new system versus it end up getting double booked in some cases. So maybe our steering committee can take that as a to-do to talk about how we can manage that a little bit just to make sure we get that taken care of. That's a good question.
Especially if they start entering this Friday, because everything's going to look available.
It'll all look empty, yeah.
Yeah.
First come, first serve, right?
And the other issue we had too was the delegation of the meetings too,
Right.
where if something gets delegated, nobody knew that it got handed off, so it dropped off.
Yeah, there'll be some of that, I'm sure.
I was just thinking we should hold and let the meetings that are in there existing right now get populated before we accept additional meeting requests.
So for this group then to focus on, if you're going to start on Friday about putting in meetings, start with just ones that are already in GroupWise, right? Yeah. That's a good point, but we'll talk more about that with our steering committee group and maybe get some more detailed communication out about it. It's more of a process kind of question. That's a good point. Thank you. Any other questions? Going once. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I think we'd like to get this group together a few times, you know, again like this, but we can also communicate by email, and you'll be hearing more about the training. Is there anything we want to say about the training sessions as far as, you want to sign up for Net Learning, and anything else that people need to know? Should be able to go in there and find a class that's open. Yeah.
That's where we'll get information about moving files from our K drive into our.
I think we're going to cover briefly OneDrive in the training. I don't know that they're really going to focus on moving files from K drive to OneDrive, just because, you know, that's something that we're not really focusing on being done on day one, and we kind of want to keep the training as focused as kind of what you need. But if you want to do that, I'm happy to show anyone, or, you know, there's nothing wrong with starting to do that now, and it's pretty easy. Once you get out to OneDrive, you can just start importing files. But you know, certainly anyone that wants to try that, you know, you can. That's fine. We want this group to kind of be willing to try some things and learn about it, and to help us all learn together. If you have any questions, just let us know. But I think they're going to be talking just briefly about how to save something to OneDrive and access OneDrive from Outlook, but they probably won't get into like mass moving of files. We'll probably focus on that a little bit later. But anything else? All right. Well, if not, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your involvement, and have a good rest of the day.